Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. A new patch has just been implemented in the game, and today I'll be featuring a game of my own up against none other than Zemp. And this will feature a long-range matchup, which isn't the most common, but it does happen every now and then, and I thought it would be interesting to showcase. We also get to see the new map in the background, which is the Chinese New Year themed festival that's currently ongoing. And yeah, this game will have some fireworks for sure. Now, I decided to start with a sledgehammer pack. I didn't really have any better alternatives, and this is still a very solid pack if you want to play defensively or long range, depending on what your opponent goes for. And Zemp here has a Sabertooth Arclight start. Now, I thought he might try to push me, but whether he does or he doesn't, my setup is largely going to be the same. The one difference is that if I think he's going to push, or I think there's an option for him to play aggressive, I'm going to put my sledgehammers in the middle here, but mainly I'm going to put my fangs in front on round 1. If I was sure that he was going to play long range, I would probably put the fangs behind the towers, because there's no real reason to put the units up there. You know, it's going to take a while for armies to engage, but I didn't know this, so that's why the fangs here are put in front of these sledgehammers to try and funnel the enemy units in if he happens to be on the left or the right, and to immediately protect against some maybe aggressive missiles as well. Now, I hedge a little bit on the right side because I think typically people do not like pushing into the magnetic barricade because of that additional slow. So I thought, you know, if he's going to push or stack aside, it's likely going to be the right side. And it does seem that I am correct in that, but it is a long-range matchup. So Zemp plays asymmetrically, but around his towers, so we do get to use the space a bit more, which means that things like Stormcaller becomes a lot more interesting. Now, I decided to go for double Arclight here on round 1 because my plan was to buy double Phoenix as my main DPS on round 2. I like going for Phoenix anytime I'm up against Sabers because they are quite tanky and other units can struggle. Also, it immediately solves my anti-air problem, which is something that you usually have to think of on round 2. So oftentimes you will just be stuck playing either Marksman or Phoenix, and out of those two, I prefer Phoenix to deal with Sabers. Round 1 here, we are definitely going to be losing, by the way, because I have no DPS to kill the Sabers, but that's fine. I can sack round 1. It's not ideal. I am a rhino specialist, so I mean, the hit points are alright, so honestly, it's not the worst. Zemp here is a Fire Badger specialist, so both of us get that bonus unit and a little bit of cash. I would argue that my specialist here is better. Fire Badger is tougher to use, and it's of course worth less resources, whereas the Rhino on round 4 could give me a nice little tempo round where I can try and attack one of the towers, and then I can always sell it the round after for 300 resources. Anyway, first we have to get through this early game, where, well, our current problem is, of course, our lack of DPS. That's not too much of an issue because we've basically solved all of our other early game problems, right? We have tankiness, we have chaff clear, and we have chaff. So here I just decide to skip. That way I have 450 resources available. I can unlock Phoenix and buy 2 Phoenixes. Note how I will be lining them up with the Sabers I want them to kill. This is a pretty good thing to try and do in your own games. Line up your units with whatever you want them to kill. So here, right, the crawlers are going to go forward. Now, usually I would want an Arclight here. I'm currently not doing that because I have that chaff clear turret. So for now, I'm basically using this as if it were an Arclight. But the moment I sell that, I would want an Arclight right here in front of where the crawlers are. This Arclight here is positioned in such a way that it can deal with both the flank, but also any crawlers that might end up in the corner, right? We can see that that's the case over here. So that's usually why you have these 5 lanes of basically chaff clear, chaff DPS, where it's the middle, the 2 towers, and then the edges, which is usually where people will put their units. And then, yeah, DPS in this case, line up perfectly to make sure that they do go towards the things I want them to kill. If I am putting them slightly off, they might end up shooting at chaff a bit more often, or get stuck on a different unit that I don't necessarily want them to kill first. So yeah, that's kind of that idea explained. Now, what I need in the upcoming rounds is likely to sell this turret, get another Arclight, get Arclight range, but mainly I am lacking chaff clear. Not chaff clear, chaff, sorry. I don't have any crawlers, right? So the fangs here are fine, but I would like to get up to at least 5 packs of chaff, if not 6 or even 7, by round 4. And, well, that would be my plan going forward. My DPS should be more than sufficient in the upcoming rounds. Double Phoenix is very powerful, and I don't see my opponent really threatening my left side too much, so I don't need to worry about defending that with a lot of deployments. Very successful round 2. I'm happy with it. And we don't get a level, sadly. That would have been amazing. Level 2 Phoenix early on drastically improves your odds of winning because the DPS is just through the roof and you tend to kill stuff really, really quick. Now, round number 3, we get unit reinforcements. I was very unhappy about this because my opponent immediately gets Marksman, and you will see that he gets accelerated through the roof on this particular round because of it. There is nothing in here that I need, right? As I talked about before, I already made sure I fixed all of my problems. My opponent hadn't fixed their problem of DPS, but now they get offered DPS for free with 2 deployments, and they still have 3 deployments available. So on this particular round, you will see that they can get range on arc lights, get the Marksman, still have 3 deployments, in this case probably 2 deployments, and get range on their Marksman. Now, normally speaking, they would have never been able to do all of this in one round, but because they specifically get the Marksman, right, they can use their deployments elsewhere, and they can use the money to get double tech going. Whereas I get the Typhoon, the best thing I can do in this situation is try and go for a tempo play. My opponent tries to do the same, by the way, with his Fire Badger on the flank. I do put a missile down to try and protect because I knew that my left side was a little bit vulnerable, and I go for a tempo play with the Typhoon I picked up. I might sell that in the long run. We will have to see, but it felt like he was relatively vulnerable to this. You can see a lot of his stuff gets pulled over, and now my plan was kind of to start to play a bit more aggressive because I knew he was going to pick Marksman, and I basically don't want to get stuck playing this long-range fight because I will likely lose. I need to, yeah, put on the pressure, right? Start pushing into the tower, even if I am also playing from long range. And typically how you do that is that you start to work towards Sandworm. So that was my plan here, but as you can see, we immediately lose the round, right? From heavily winning to heavily losing in the span of 1 round. And yeah, main reason here is that the unit drop was exceptionally bad for this position. But we still have some counterplay here, and now it's just kind of forced us to try and look towards pressuring, right? My opponent has clicked range on the Marksman, so anything I can do to kind of mitigate that or reduce the value of them clicking range by getting in their face is going to be a good move for me. Underground Threat here shows up. I could pick it. Orbital Javelin round 4 is good too, but there isn't really anything to hit right now, so I didn't think it was worth picking up. And honestly, I kind of felt like, yeah, Underground Threat here is good enough. I can use it on the top left to try and pull away some of these units, and then I can basically work together with my Rhino I now have to attack the left tower, right? I talked about this before, but this is a very common play when you're a Rhino specialist. Try and see which tower is the most, you know, open, the least defended, and try to attack it, even if just for 1 round. If you get the debuff, it's going to benefit you a lot. And so, yeah, that was the plan moving forward. Now, I did kind of think about maybe starting an attack on the left here in the long run. As I mentioned, I'm thinking about Sandworms in the long run against the Marksman. So I am going to actually help out my Rhino by putting some crawlers beside it. And the idea was maybe I sell my Rhino or I start building Sandworms next to my Rhino to start attacking this tower a lot. That was the plan that I was going for. My opponent already has 2nd attack enhancement here. I don't even have the 1st and the 2nd one. And he also goes for a defensive underground threat, but it is in the middle, so this pull here should still work. I'm perfectly fine leaving that Typhoon there. It did a good job. I want to see what my opponent's response is. Right now, it's not that amazing, honestly. You know, there's a blue Marksman there, which does kill the Typhoon, but you can see we pull for a long time. I kill at least, I want to say, 1 pack of crawlers. And yeah, it opens up the rest of the units here for my Phoenixes to do their thing. Left side looking good. The pull was successful. We get in, we get the debuff, and it looks like we will be able to at least win the round here, which I am very happy with because I am kind of looking to end this before we get to the very late stages where I think the Marksman should outscale. But yeah, this is a way that you can start thinking about what are your best plans, right? Like, what is your opponent's strength, and how do you make sure that they don't get a ton of value out of that? And in this scenario, Marksmen aren't the highest DPS. When you click range, you know, if you get in their face, that's kind of mitigated. So yeah, playing aggressive here seemed like the best thing. Now, round number 5, and my plans once again are kind of thrown in the bin, because we have more unit reinforcements, and it is Fortress. And I was practically sure he was going to pick it. And why this is so bad for me is because my DPS is Phoenixes. And one of the counters to Phoenix-based boards is early Fortress with anti-air barrage. So there's that, and not only that, but Fortress is also very good into Sandworm. So basically my entire board now is just worthless, right? The only good thing I have is the few chaff units, my arc lights, and that's about it. The Rhino is not going to be that amazing into Fortresses in the long run. The Phoenixes I'm going to have to sell out of most likely. So yeah, I wasn't too happy about it. Now, I do see Stormcaller, and I kind of know he goes Fortress, so I decided, well, in this scenario, the best I can probably do is try to just mass Stormcaller. It's pretty good into Giants, and it can work in long-range matches if you just get a lot of deployments, and you run things like Range and Overload. You can overwhelm your opponent, and if you do it immediately, oftentimes your opponent won't be able to catch up in terms of missile interception, right? I also run Electromagnetic Explosion on my Stormcallers, so any interception from, let's say, a War Factory could also get EMP'd. So this is what I do. You might say, why not go Melter? My opponent runs Solid Shot and Elite Marksman, so long term, it's not even sure that I win this if I go Melting Point, and the problem is I have too many things to sell, and Melting Point wasn't offered. If you can use a unit drop on your board, it is always going to be better than having to sell it and buy another unit, because here you get the deployments for free, right? So I managed to buy 4 Stormcallers in one turn. Otherwise, I would have had to, I mean, like take Stormcaller or Wasp and sell it, or Fortress, but that only sells for 300 profit. I still have to sell out of, you know, 3 more Phoenixes. It's really not ideal. So yeah, that's why I felt like I was kind of forced to go into Stormcaller, use the deployments, and use my sells for everything else I have, right? I sell my Rhino because I kind of knew he was going to put a Fortress there, and now I still have 3 Phoenixes to sell as well. Opponent indeed buys another Fortress, goes anti-air barrage, and, you know, it's exactly the type of play I expected. We'll just have to see if we can somehow deal with this now, because I don't have that much chaff, and I am kind of lacking some chaff there as well. I would love at least 1 more arc light on the left, and honestly I would love to have like 3 crawlers in the back if I can. But at the same time, when you're playing this type of Stormcaller spam board, you really just want to spam Stormcallers. So we'll have to see how we use our deployments. Doesn't look like we do too poorly, but yeah, I do lose the round here again. But I felt like it was close enough to where if I just buy more Stormcallers, I might be fine. We go down to 2130, and here comes round number 6. Orbital Bombardment shows up. Not a bad card. I probably should pick that. Underground Threat is fine, but I think when you have a spell like this show up, you're kind of forced to pick it. And Advanced Offensive Tactics you could consider, but it is very expensive, and I haven't even clicked like second attack enhancement on the tower. So really, if I want to get damage, I should just grab that. And both of us go for the orbital. So I have to shield in this scenario, of course. I have to also start selling out of some Phoenixes. This one did end up doing the best, 27,000 damage, not terrible. The problem is that Fort AA gets the full credit of the kill when it takes down an air unit. So level 2 Phoenixes giving 3 times the amount of a level 1 is not ideal, and I want to keep them low level if possible. So even though this did well, I probably will end up selling it first anyway, because it's more resources, and as you can see, my opponent is logically buying more Fortresses, so this is very likely to just die quickly this time around. Here come the bubbles. We buy more Stormcallers, And that is pretty much going to be our round. Temp range, very important. I am loaning here as well. It is round 6, but I felt like I needed to try and close this out as fast as possible. And, well, you do that by getting as much money as you possibly can. Phoenix gets sold. The other one, I could probably try and beacon away. I do go second attack enhancement here as well, because I don't have AP on my Stormcallers. All of them are currently level 1, so all the damage I can get to try and take down these giants is going to be beneficial. And yeah, we beacon the Phoenixes to the side and back to try and avoid the fortresses for as long as possible, and to potentially avoid the orbital as well. And if I can take down these fortresses, then maybe my Phoenixes stay alive for, you know, the entire round, which would be nice. I have to worry a bit too about my lack of anti-air, because if I sell my Phoenixes, then I can't shoot up anymore. So long term here, I am probably looking to buy either Melting Point or Farseer. Farseer is another missile-based unit, which honestly isn't even that bad to pair with Stormcallers at this point, because it's gonna be impossible for my opponent to intercept all of this, and adding Farseer missiles basically makes it even more difficult. As you can see, we are doing pretty well all of a sudden. The fortresses don't have range yet, or solid shots in this case, so we do manage to pick off some units, and with all of these Stormcallers alive, that's a decent amount of damage that we're going to be dealing. So I was pretty happy about this, and I felt like I maybe had a chance. Zemp now down to 1100. If we can get one more round like that, or perhaps, you know, 2, that would be nice. Round number 7, Smoke Bomb shows up. Probably the only thing here that you want to pick. Nothing else makes sense, really. It's too late for Rhino Assault to do much. And if I can catch some of these units in the smoke, that would be lovely. I decided to put it a little bit far forward in case my opponent decides to go for Barrier, although he wasn't running Barrier, so I guess that wasn't a concern. But either way, typically people will kind of shield a bit further back. So if you put this a bit further forward, like Zemp does as well, you will often be able to land the smoke. Now, I decided to bubble a little bit further forward, but still, he could land smoke here if he wants to. I maybe should have gone for another shield over here, because it is kind of an obvious spot to put the smoke. But I had other stuff that I needed to do, like buying Farseer, because now we've sold out of all but one Phoenix, and I was really afraid of something like a Wasp play to come out here, or just any air unit, really. So I felt like I really had to buy these. The Typhoons at this point, we could maybe get rid of, but my opponent still hasn't dealt with it that well, and it ends up killing a Crawler Pack, I think. So it's not the worst. It does a decent job. And, well, let's see how this goes. Opponent does buy some Missile Interceptors. You should do this if you have the money. It can be a bit risky, because if you end up losing the round and all of your Interceptors, that is an incredible amount of, you know, money that you're going to be down. But if you manage to survive, then, yeah, it's really powerful. You get to add, you know, 4, 5, 6 more Interceptors next round, and at some point you will be able to intercept a significant amount of these missiles. Chaff clear still, though, not amazing. Have to be a bit careful there, because, yeah, you can see the onslaught of crawlers coming in. My Arclight is stuck in smoke. Some of my Stormcallers, my Farseer, are stuck in smoke too. On the right side, same thing for his Arclights and Fortresses, but the Marksman, for the time being, do sit right behind. If we can kill that Fortress, it would be very nice. My Phoenix does survive for a little bit and ends up doing at least some damage. Looks like maybe we will end up losing the tower. There is some smoke here, though. Maybe that will protect my tower for a bit longer. Doesn't seem to be the case. The Arclights sit right behind, and that debuff does hurt. Fortress now waltzing through, killing a bit more of my Stormcallers. Right side, we do manage to get rid of the Marksman. Looks like we should be fine, but it's a very close fought round, and ideally here I would have dealt a bit more damage. But I think because of, you know, the smoke, the Interceptors, it was relatively difficult. And here comes round number 8. Now, additional deployment slot gets offered. And I was a bit torn between different plays here. One logical play would be to just build more Stormcallers and maybe even try to think about EMP. The other would be to fix my Chaff Clear, which is a concern, and I was a bit afraid that he would go for something like double defense enhancement and subterranean blitz, which he doesn't end up doing, but that was the thing I was scared of. Both of us also have the underground threat available, so that's even more crawlers to deal with. And at the very least, I need an arc light here on the left side to help out. Now, I hadn't clicked oil yet, so I decided to go for the oil. And I was thinking about clicking Incendiary Bomb to set the ground on fire. And hopefully, if I can kill the chaff fast, I can lock onto the enemy units. So I do buy more Stormcallers, and I click Incendiary Bomb. The one thing I kind of forgot about is that Incendiary Bomb these days reduces the range by 20, right? So now I'm down to 175, which is not amazing because the enemy fortresses also have 175 after clicking Solid Shot. The enemy Marksman are up to 195, which is what my Stormcallers were sitting at before. With the smoke in play, that's a little bit scary. So we'll have to see whether this works out. The oil does land, and I will be able to ignite it. But as you can see, my Stormcallers, because of their lack of range, end up moving into the smoke, which again decreases their range even further. So whilst my chaff clear here is good, my units are also a lot more vulnerable to these fortresses. And I mean, I'm just hoping here that we are able to at least take out some of the enemy fortresses. More missile interceptors, by the way, did get purchased, as I mentioned, right? If you manage to keep them alive, you get to buy more, and it's kind of a win more type of thing. But yeah, left side not looking good. Stormcallers all gone down. Luckily, it doesn't seem like his units are trying to go for my tower, so no debuff is going to come through. But can we take down enough fortresses here? There's 5 of them still alive, and I think that's all of my Stormcallers now dead. There goes the last one. 5 fortresses. And yeah, we end up dying there. Oof. Not amazing. Not amazing. But that does tend to happen, right? With the, well, board being so heavily loaded on giants. If you happen to make a wrong move or lose pretty heavily, you take a ton of damage. Now, on this final round, there was a different play that I was trying to make, or that I thought of, which was additional deployment slots, and go for EMP here. We, of course, have to take the loan. And we are probably going to sell that Phoenix. Temp speed here, not that useful. I could also sell the Typhoon in this case. I need an arc light. That is 100% something that we have to do. And I need more Stormcallers as well. Let's put the crawlers over here. And probably try to beacon these guys around the smoke, or a bit more towards the left, I imagine. More Stormcallers, so let's put some over here. Arc light needs to go on the side and help out my Stormcallers. And, okay, I did grab that arc light. That's good. And I think we just go for another Stormcaller. At this point, you know, the strat is not that difficult, right? Like many things in Mechabellum, buying more of the unit that you've teched 3 times is just a good move. I think here we just level one of the Stormcallers and see what happens. Now, the good thing about this is my opponent, of course, techs the fortresses one more time. I wasn't sure whether he would do that, but he did. And so, yeah, more techs means that there's more value in EMP. And, of course, my Stormcallers now have more range, right? They still have their 195, which should help. So let's see how this plays out. Hopefully, the Stormcallers are able to do a bit more. These guys avoid the smoke. All of these guys also are avoiding the smoke by the looks of things. And we have a nice kind of run-in of crawlers to help out my arc lights. We do kill all of the crawlers, so things are looking a lot better. I only need to land, you know, 1 EMP on his units to get rid of that solid shot. Sadly, my arc light here does die to the enemy fortress, but things are looking a lot better. We can speed things up, and we do end up hitting some of those fortresses. Is it going better here? Looks like it is, honestly. We do manage to fare a little bit better. We get the EMP to go off. The fortresses are crippled. They walk a lot more slowly. The Marksman goes down. And we managed to even win this round, despite, you know, that smoke being there. We don't deal enough damage to kill, but it's definitely a lot better than taking, you know, 2,500 damage. Like, that's almost a 3,000 HP swing. By going for this play instead. So yeah, I was a bit too afraid here of the crawlers. I should have simply bought an arc light and trusted that would have been enough. And I should not have clicked fire because it just reduces my range by too much. So yeah, it does showcase that this is still a viable strat in some cases. It was a rough game, but I think it's an interesting one because this will happen, right? Where your opponent just gets every good drop. Marksman was really bad after I had already purchased Phoenix. Basically, nothing in here was good for me. And then this wasn't ideal for me either because my transitional plan was Worm, but then that's not possible with Fortress being offered. So yeah, we have to kind of make use of Stormcaller, which is not an S tier strat, but you know, I think it can function. And as you can see here, I might have given myself at least a chance at victory on round number 9 instead of dying on round number 8. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about it and perhaps what you think of this map. I haven't really talked about it, but yeah, we have fireworks everywhere. This big one is really cool, but it is a little bit distracting. Maybe you thought it was distracting during the video. If you did, I apologize. But yeah, with my viewing angle, it does get a bit in the way. I guess if you're playing top down, then it's a lot better. Yeah, let me know. If you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. If you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.